Hello, good afternoon. My name is Untitled. I'm a former director of Bristol is Open. Thank you very much, Gabriela, for the introduction. So I actually used to be looking after Bristol is Open smart city infrastructure. I'm in between jobs right now, but the main point of Bristol is Open was as a joint venture to deliver city experimentation as a service platform, focusing on different fiber-based infrastructure, including a number of wireless access points. So I would like to invite my panelists, Eve to introduce, and also Luciano to introduce themselves. So over to you, Eve, please.
Yes, thank you. Hello, Isvan. Hello, everyone. So I'm Yves Bellego, Director of Network Strategy in Orange Group. As Orange, we are mobile and fixed convergent operator in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. My job is basically to find out and work with our research teams what should be the transformation to deliver to our networks in our countries. And our main focus at the moment is on 5G, on fiber access, connecting the homes, and on virtualization.
Thank you very much. Over to Luciano. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for the opportunity to be here. Hello, everyone. My name is Luciano Mendes. I am a professor at the National Institute of Telecommunication, Brazil, and also the research coordinator of 5G developments here. Natel is leading the research of 5G technologies in Brazil. We are also part of a very large project that includes several European partners. And our main goal is to introduce 5G for remote areas. We would like to extend the 5G research to also achieve those who are living in areas outside the cities and also in farms and places that current technology cannot reach.
Excellent, thank you very much. I'd like to open up actually our panel discussion regarding a number of questions focusing on 5G trials. So the first question I have would be for all of you, and I'd really appreciate if you can sort of delve into a bit more detail regarding your current activities related to 5G trials. If you can sort of explain about what that sort of trial is all about and give a bit of a context to the audience, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Yes. So regarding the trials, in fact, I believe we are in these days in the transition. What we did a lot in the past was more research, proof of concepts, technological studies and testings, and now we are moving to end-to-end trials. This is, for example, what we demonstrated at the Mobile World Congress not so long ago, that now we have the elements, we have the standard that is ready, we have the chipsets that become to be available, so we can build testing of the end-to-end service and not only have a test of single elements of 5G. This is the, I believe, the point where we are today.
So at Natel, we are an university, as I mentioned before, and we are deeply involved with research. So right now, we are working with proof of concept of a 5G mode that can deliver at least 100 megabits per second at 50 kilometers away from the base station. So what you are trying to do is demonstrate in a field experiment that the current technology can actually be used to achieve those numbers, and that reliable internet access can be available for everyone with current technology. We don't need to wait too much to provide universal technology for those that are living far away from cities.
Okay, so the second question, I would like to kind of also drill down into some kind of details regarding technologies you are currently using actually on your trials, on your further plans related to 5G. So that would be great if you can elaborate a little bit about it, Yves, Luciano, from your perspectives, please.
in fact, we believe a lot that new technologies need to be developed step by step, and we believe that there was a need, and what has been done, in fact, answered that need, to have validation of different elements of 5G. So, for example, at Orange, we did a lot, but that was some years ago, of testing on the different spectrum bands. What is the propagation characteristics of different spectrum bands, and for example, that validated the interest of the 3.5 gigahertz bands that is planned to be widely used in Europe. More recently, we did, and we will have more wide testing of MIMO, massive MIMO antennas, again to validate the performance and the characteristics of massive MIMO, and what kind of performance, customer performance, we can expect from these developments. We have also started tests on the slicing concept to see what type of performance we can get. For example, the very low, ultra low latency in case of vehicle to vehicle services. So that also has been done, and we expect also to, in fact, we plan to do some other tests this year in 2018 on the fixed wireless access use case in Romania, in Orange Romania network, using the 26 gigahertz band. So quite a large variety of different tests, but we believe that all that is needed to progress step by step, and at the end to build the technology, and also to build confidence, and to know how we will be able to use this technology in our commercial networks.
Thank you.
Well, regarding what you're doing here at Natel, we are working with the long range at different remote areas. And that's a very challenging scenario. First of all, we need to cover very large areas. So propagation, it's a challenging issue. We have chosen to use vacant TV stations or TV white spaces in UHF bands for two reasons. First, because propagation is quite good in this frequency band. We do not suffer with the best loss, and also because of the cost. Since you do not expect to have a large number of subscribers within the radius of this base station, you need to reduce the operational cost. And one of the biggest problems is the license. So if you use unlicensed channels, we can allow opportunity for small providers to deploy this network. And cognitive radio is a key technology in this aspect. So you need to use in a smart way the available frequency in these remote areas, and adaptively deploy the network in different TV bands. For that to be a success, first, we need to have a waveform that has very low out-of-band emissions, that does not contaminate the entire spectrum, and most important, does not interfere in the increments. Also, you need to have fragmented spectral location, so you can dynamically change the spectral location according to the use from the primary users. And in order to identify where the primary users are, you need to use distributed sensing among the nodes. So the nodes, or the user's terminals, must be able to sense the spectrum and report to the base station the conditions of that spectrum, so that the base station is aware of the occupancy of the spectrum in that location. Of course, you need to improve the throughput, so MIMO technologies are very important, not only for the data rate, but also for robustness, for diversity. And we need also to use beamforming to allow for small interference among the nodes, and to improve the link budget between the nodes and the base station. So those are the pool of technologies that we think that is very important for remote areas operation.
Okay, the next question I'd like to ask the panelists is around what has been the key impact on the 5G platform regarding trials, pilots so far on the road to 5G? So what are the key learning points, in other words, if you can elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, in fact, sorry, just yes. There were various steps, but what I would like to insist on is the various trials to validate the assumptions that were made in the research phases, because what we need at the end is to ensure that the system we get on our commercial networks really delivers what were the intentions, what were the performance expected when the system was designed. So as I mentioned, validating the propagation performance was something very important, including the use of massive MIMO. So what are the exact coverage of massive MIMO at 3.5 GHz was one result very important for Orange. Another important result that we got through different trials, joint trials done at in European research projects, or our own trials. For example, we did our trials with Ericsson and with PSA, the car maker, to test some specific cases. And that validated in our mind the concept of network slicing. So in fact, all these different steps need to be validated. I expect some others were done to validate the feasibility for our suppliers, because that's something that also need to be ensured. And we believe that we need, in fact, very different tests to be, at the end, more or less not correlated, but that cover all the needs. And I would like to mention entities like the NGMN with the Test and Trial Initiative, and one goal of this Test and Trial Initiative is just to document the different testings and to share the results so that everyone is confident that the performance will be delivered as expected.
Thank you.
So I see that a lot of effort is being done to implement the enhanced mobile broadband, and all the tests that appears nowadays shows that this scenario is going to be covered quite soon, and throughput will not be a problem for the future networks. Of course, there are a lot of issues that must be researched and solved, mainly regarding the coordination between the cells and how to reduce the interference among them. But we are on the good track regarding the increase of the data rate in mobile networks. Also, the tests show that the core of the networks are evolving quite well to take care of this high throughput per user, and that current technology is ready to deploy such a network. You can see that it's order of scale, and in 2020 you're going to see commercial available enhanced mobile broadband networks in the main centers in Europe, Asia, and America. I'm not so sure regarding the other scenarios so far, so I have still some questions regarding the IoT scenario, for example, how 5G will support IoT and how low latency will be gonna be taken care in the future. But regarding enhanced mobile broadband, we are on a very good track.
Okay, that's great. So the next question I have for you is, what are the priorities for R&D between now and the commercial launch of 5G?
On that, I would see two sets of priorities. There is one that is much more on the development, and that is to make the last steps between now and commercial deployment. And these last steps, they include maybe not for us operators, but for our suppliers, to really develop and deliver equipment, whether these are on the devices, on network side, but equipment that are really commercial equipment. So moving from prototypes to real products. We also need, as operators, to fine-tune the operational model, how we will deploy, how to really put, for example, example, these massive MIMO antennas on existing pylon and sites. So the kind of practical steps, and we need to get accustomed to 5G. That is more on the development, and more on the research side. We do not forget that what we are in fact preparing for initial launch is just the first step of 5G, but it is not by far the full 5G performance. So we need to continue to progress, including in standardization. So we need to further develop standardization so that we have the full functionality of 5G.
Thank you.
I completely agree. The focus on research and development today should be in reducing the costs of the devices and the equipment that use the network. We see that most of the functions that are necessary can be done, but somehow the equipment are by far too expensive, so that price needs to be reduced. Also, you need to create new models for commercialize the service that 5G will deploy, and check who and how people can make money of the new service. It's quite important also for the near future to develop the other scenarios. It's not going to be for 2020, but as our colleague said, it needs to follow in a very short time. So you need to have the 5G for remote areas, 5G for ultra reliable low latency, and 5G for cover vehicle-to-vehicle communication, vehicle-to-infrastructure communication as well. So these new scenarios need to follow the first deployment in 2020.
Thank you. I totally agree with you too. I think you kind of nicely touched upon the main points related to the R&D priorities between now and the commercial launch. Okay, I think the next question I'd like to sort of understand a bit more about what do you think actually the results for the 5G trial will be actually sort of bridging some gaps between urban and rural areas? Do you see that actually happening, or do you have any kind of evidence of those?
Well, on that, as Luciano mentioned, he has strong expectations on 5G. In fact, at Orange, we also have very strong expectations on 5G to help covering low-density areas. And that in Europe, for example, in France, we have large rural areas, and we have very, very strong expectations from our customers, from the government, to have very good coverage in those low-populated areas. We also operate in some African countries with low revenues per square kilometer, so we need to find cost-effective ways to cover these areas. We put strong expectations on 5G. We said that, and we input these requests into standardization. We are also supportive of the low bands for use for 5G, like the 700 MHz band. We feel that there is still some work to be done, including at standardization level, so that we can really get the full benefits of 5G to reduce that gap and to get good cost-effective coverage in low-density areas. And we are still strongly active in 3GPP to get that. So I feel that would probably not be available in the initial phase of 5G, but we need to work to get that as one of the features to be further developed and to be available not too soon, but in the coming releases of the standard, so that we can have a large coverage and large availability of 5G.
Okay.
I just like to highlight the size of this gap. Right? So a recent study from ITU from January 2017 has shown that there are 3.9 billion people that do not have internet access today. Some of them do not have internet access because they don't want to have, because of the way that they look to life. That's the case in most of the unconnected people in America. But in Africa and in the Asia towards the Pacific area, actually they don't have access because A, they don't have coverage, B, they don't have the money to pay for this internet access, or C is a combination of both of them. Right? So we see that regarding the money, what you can do is provide a network which the access is not very expensive. So it's not, for example, satellite connection, direct satellite connection. That would be very expensive. And in terms of coverage, we cannot work with base station that covers only 5 kilometers or 1 kilometer. You need to be wider than that. And the operational cost of this network must be quite low. And towards just this scenario, the 5G trials that we have so far does not show any improvement in reducing this gap. So the main focus today is for enhanced mobile broadband. That is what you saw during the Winter Games. That's what you see that most operators are trying to achieve. And of course, this is the most relevant scenario for today. But I think there is a lot to be done regarding close the gap between people that live in cities and people that are living in remote areas. And that's not only a market for new subscribers. Also, you have a huge market for farms automations, the so-called smart farming, right? The producers would like to have a better look into what they can do to improve the productivity in the farms. They would like to monitor how their production is going from the fields to the markets, and also how they can take care of the health of the crops or of the cattle. So this kind of demand, it's huge around the world, here in Brazil especially, since Brazil is one of the biggest agribusiness players in the world. So you have a lot of expectation regarding 5G, but what I can see so far, 5G trials not closing the gap. But I believe it will be quite soon.
Okay, thank you. And I've got one more question for you. I think what I'd like to a little bit allude to the 5G trials and the particular use cases. So what do you think, what use cases seem to be emerging from your trial results? If you can allude a little bit more on that.
Yes, but, well, in fact, on that, to be clear, our trials until now have really been technological trials. We do not yet have any device that we can really put into the hands of a real customer. So that we expect to develop more in 2018 and 2019. So the first case we see is mainly an evolution of existing 4G network and 4G services. So a lot in the area of around augmented reality, virtual reality. So the emerging use cases, but that are already starting on 4G, just expanding in 5G. When we are talking about new use cases around connected vehicles, around IoTs in 5G, that is something I expect, in fact, to come maybe a bit later. So I would guess from our technological trials until now, we believe step one will be mobile as today, but even better.
Thank you.
Our field test here at Inatel, it's basically to show the concept that 5G technology can be used for long-range coverage. And we don't have at the other side a user in a common sense. What you have is equipment that measures the throughput and also collects data regarding the behavior of the channel, so you can design the physical layer properly. But you have done a trial just to show to general public what you're doing here at Inatel, and use our technology to connect a school located in a remote area which has no internet access, where kids are going without contact with internet or social media and so on, and use this technology to deliver them access. And it was quite amazing to see how they got into technology very fast and how they could learn how to use it quite quickly, and showing that it's today the technology, today digital life, it almost seems less connected to our style of life. It doesn't matter if you grow up in a place where you have the connection or not. Once you are exposed to it, people get used to the technology quite soon. And it was quite interesting to see this phenomenon happen.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Yves, Luciano. Much appreciated your participation. And I'd like to hand back to our host, Gabriela, and I let you believe we will have some time for questions and answers from the audience. Thank you very much. Over to you.